Mr. Ashby voting no. Have all members voted? There being 60 ayes and 83 nays, the amendment fails to adopt. The following amendment, the clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Garcia.
The chair recognizes Ms. Garcia to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. Excuse me, sorry. This amendment would strike on line 4, page 4, line 2, the word may and substitute it with shall, because this is a very simple amendment. And what happens here is it changes something that could be very consequential. It strikes may and substitutes it with shall to make the approval of DEI offices that are required by grants and accreditors mandatory rather than permissive. If these grants and accreditors require a college or university to have a DEI office in order to be approved, why would the text of this bill imply that a board could just refuse the establishment? This is a very easy part of the bill to fix, and it ensures that those DEI offices that are required by grants, accreditors, etc., do not have any roadblocks to them. Members, I urge you to vote yes on this amendment.
The chair recognizes Mr. Kemple in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just changing a may to a shall, where our intent is to better leave the decision to the governing board. So I respectfully oppose. The chair recognizes Ms. Garcia to close on the amendment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. You know, I'm new here. I just got here. I've never served in politics before. As I've been listening to the arguments and the debates around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I had to take myself back to basics because I almost felt like it was something that I didn't understand. Listening to the just very polarizing conversations around here based on something that I don't understand to be bad. Diversity, it says diversity is the state of being diverse in variety. Do we not want that? Equity. Equity is being fair and impartial. Is that not our jobs as legislators? Inclusion, the action or state of including or being included with a group or structure. Are we not inclusive? I'm so confused what the fight is over diversity, equity, and inclusion. And forgive me, I'm trying really hard not to get emotional, but this is something that has become very emotional because this is an attack on me as an essential person. And I'm going to tell you how in so many ways. When I look at everything in the bill and who this impacts, it impacts a veteran. It impacts somebody who's economically disadvantaged. It impacts somebody who is of color. It impacts somebody with a disability. I have all of those things, and I'm not the only one in here. My baby boys, they're 20 years old, they have autism. These DEI offices are there to help people like them, to help adults like them just try to live life normal. We're seeking to be normal. Mr. Speaker, I move passage.
Ms. Collier.
Will the gentlelady yield for a question?
Will the gentlelady yield for questions?
Yes, I will yield for questions.
Thank you for your comments and your passionate advocacy for this provision. But you just mentioned something about your twins. You said that they're not only disabled, they're also a person of color.
Yes, ma'am.
And so by eliminating the DEI policies and procedures, you're eliminating one opportunity that they would have, one avenue to have equity by eliminating those offices. So right now they would have a provision under the ADA, which is what Chair Kemple said is still valid, but by removing the DEI office and policies and procedures, you're eliminating alternative avenues for them, so they do not have the same opportunities that they would have if this, bill did not pass. Is that right?
Absolutely, ma'am, and I'll tell you, my boys worked very hard to become high school graduates. They graduated from high school through general ed. It was not easy for them. It was very difficult. We just got to the point to where they want to go to college. They want to be like the other kids, and we're working on that. My oldest son got accepted to A&M San Antonio, and we were hoping to send the twins there as well, because they have a wonderful diversity, equity, and inclusion program that not only would help them as students with special needs, but also help them navigate the system of being a university student.
Right.
And this hits me particularly hard because I needed those services as a veteran with PTSD when I left the military and went back to college. It's terrifying for me as a mother to special needs children, and I have to be honest with you and let you know that now my decision has to be seriously considered for the safety of my sons, because without having those people in place at the DEI office, the things that they offer help them navigate being a college student. And without that, I'm not sure how they'd be able to navigate.
Because one other thing you said, you identified what makes us a rich state is because of the diversity. But if we eliminate these offices with the policies and procedures, we will not be able to have people in place that can identify and actually understand the challenges and differences that are associated with our cultural and historical background, because they will not be able to recognize when somebody may be angry but they're really hungry, or when somebody may be angry but maybe they lost their job. And so people respond to different situations differently. They respond to situations differently. But the whole point of this diversity, equity, inclusion was to help those identify the differences on cultural and racial and gender differences, so that way they're not being penalized for being themselves.
Absolutely, and you said angry. You mentioned that word angry. I want to tell you, my twins are very expressive, and a lot of times their expressions are confused for anger. They're not angry, they just don't know how to express themselves.
Or maybe we speak a little louder.
Absolutely.
As a person of color, because
Yes.
we're not heard. I'm going to say that again. Maybe it could be that sometimes people of color speak louder because they're not heard. It doesn't mean that they are being offensive. It's just they want to be heard, and that's the opportunity that these DEI offices provide. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Speaker, I move passage.
Ms. Garcia, since the amendment was not acceptable out there, a record vote has been requested. The clerk ring the bell. So Ms. Garcia voting aye, Mr. Kemp voting nay. Ms. Jones of Harris voting aye. Mr. D'Alia voting aye. Nay. Nay. Have all members voted? There being 60 ayes and 82 nays, the amendment fails to adopt.
Speaker?
Ms. Collier, for what purpose?
I move to have all the dialogue on the front mic and the back mic reduced